Afternoon of the 4th day. The tragedy of 0.14.
Part 0. What exactly were you trying to do? Part 1. Lunch was prepared by Hikari. Yayoi had complained of being under the weather and was resting in her room. Indeed, she did seem pretty pale when we passed her in the hall.
It's nothing like what Yayoi makes us, but please enjoy,
Hikari said, with a shy smile before leaving the dining room. That left only me and Kunigisa and Maki. She was having lunch, too. I did my best to ignore her as I crammed Hikari's cooking down my throat. Kunigisa, who didn't seem to be hungry and had just tagged along, looked around restlessly.
Hey, boyo.
As expected, Maki was going to harass me.
Looks like you've been having some fun, eh?
So you meant this, Maki.
What are you talking about?
Things getting worse before they get better. Isn't that what you said at dinner yesterday? What a lovely precognition that was.
I sense a bit of sarcasm there, but I'll go ahead and take that as a compliment.
If you knew this was going to happen, couldn't you have prevented it?
All I can do is watch and listen. I think you're misunderstanding me. Psychic abilities aren't such a great convenience. I told you before, didn't I? It's like watching TV. Can you alter the contents of a TV show?
She gave a mocking smile and ferried food into her mouth. Something about her resembled Kunigisa, I thought. So emotionally immature, yet at the same time enlightened. In the aftermath of Kanami's murder, she seemed completely unfazed. In fact, it didn't seem like anything could ever faze her. Then please inform us. What's going to happen next?
Sure, if you pay me.
Suddenly, she looked furious, and without another word, she got up and stormed out of the dining room. Why was she so mad?
That was insensitive of you, Ichan.
What was?
Forget it. If you're done eating, let's go back to my room. We've got things to do.
Yeah. Okay. Maki must have just been a moody person. I optimistically decided to assume that was the case, and give it no further thought. I didn't know what darkness lurked in the heart of someone who knew everything. We returned to Kunigisa's room. First, we unloaded the digital photos onto her PC using a USB cord. Then, she switched on the workstation and inserted a floppy disk. What's on the disk? I asked.
Tools. My original creations, of course. It's set up so that they only run on this workstation, so even if I lose the CD, it's okay. Now, let's get to the bottom of this.
To put it plainly, what Kunigisa was about to do was illegal. But I guess you could also call it research. Including Kanami, there were 12 people. Excluding Kunigisa and me, there were 10. As planned, Kunigisa was going to run a background check on them and find out who knew whom. Kanami had been murdered. There must have been a reason for that. Of course, there are murders that occur for no apparent reason, but the other type is overwhelmingly, absolutely, and depressingly more common. Supposedly, everyone here had met for the first time on the island. But what if that wasn't the case? The possibility was there, and just thinking about it wouldn't do much good. And thus, it was time for Tomo Kunigisa, leader of the team that had thrown the cyber world into total chaos last century, to act. So what now?
First, I'm gonna access the high-spec machine I've got back home. This workstation doesn't have the power we need.
Even with Terra?
This has nothing to do with capacity. Ichan, you really don't know anything, do you?
Quit saying that. I might not know as much as you, but I do know some things. I took an electronics class back in Houston at least.
Really? Sounds like a lie to me. Once, when I asked you to copy a disc for me, you said sure and headed for a convenience store that had a Xerox machine.
That was before I went to Houston. Curse that memory of hers.
Well, whatever. That's Ichan for you.
She said.
Anyway, from there, I'm going to use about 10 UG servers as a platform and contact Chi.
Chi? Never heard that name before. But I could guess that it was a member of the team. I asked if it was, and she nodded.
Chi was mainly in charge of seeking. There's nothing in the Milky Way galaxy that he can't track down.
The Milky Way galaxy, huh? This was a freakish pack of talented people indeed.
He's got a terrible personality, but he's a good guy.
He's not the one who made the operating system, is he? That was Achan, right? So what's this Chi doing nowadays?
He's in prison. He got a 150 years sentence. Oh, plus 8 years. 158 years. He kept hacking on his own even after the team disbanded. He tried to crack the G8 database, but yeah, that did get him caught. He made it pretty far, but he got stuck at the 87th line of defense. If you get too good at something, it's always the easy stuff that gets you in the end.
You sure know a lot about it.
Yup, I was the one who designed that line of defense.
Huh.
I had heard a rumor that she was after top secret UN information. I couldn't just let the situation be, so I contacted a few friends and we set up a defense. Even then, it was a close call, which is a testament to his skill.
And he got thrown in prison? You really think he'll help us? In fact, how is he going to from prison? They don't have the internet in there, do they?
There's always an exception to the rule, you know. And Chi happens to be pretty exceptional. He'll definitely help out. Chi's not the type to sweat the small stuff.
She continued typing away, even while she talked. I already had no idea what she was doing. Why do you call him Chi?
His net handle is Cheetah.
Kind of an obvious handle, huh?
Yeah, well, he's a fast runner, too. He says he's rammed a car before.
While driving, I'm sure.
No, while running. I bet he was the first person in Japan to pay damages for hitting a car while on foot.
How's that for eccentric? Was this like attracting like? Or did Tomo simply like them? Don't ever introduce us, I said. He sounded like the kind of person I'd rather quietly observe from a distance. Kunigisa nodded.
You got it. We all have rules, after all. We never introduce friends to each other no matter what. 'Cause friends aren't just information. I don't want you introducing me to anyone either, Ichan.
Sure. So I guess that'll leave all of this up to you then. If you're going to be contacting that guy, I probably shouldn't be hanging around, huh? I've got a few places to go, too.
Peace out.
Kunigisa saluted. With that, I left her room. I made my way down the spiral staircase. There, I paused for a deep breath and began down the hallway. I was on my way to Iria's room. Hikari had given me directions earlier, so I didn't get lost. Even in a mansion like this, where everything was of the finest quality, the door to her room was of exceptional craftsmanship. I doubted whether the sound of my knocking would even reach the other side of such a chunky door. Nonetheless, after giving it a try, the wave of sound did somehow appear to reach the inside, and my knock was answered with a,
"Come in."
I opened the door and went inside. The room was probably twice the size of Kunagisa's. It wasn't straight out of a movie. I was practically in a movie. I felt like a fairy tale character visiting a palace. The words, "receive an audience," came to mind. It was head maid Ray who sat on a sofa while Iria stood beside her. They must have been in the middle of a conversation. Iria tilted her head at me.
"Is something the matter?
She looked perplexed. It seemed she had forgotten my name. No, I actually hadn't given my name once since coming to this mansion. I wanted to talk to you about something.
Certainly. Please, take a seat there."
I was thrown off by her cooperativeness. As instructed, I sat myself on a sofa that was even swankier than the one in Kunagisa's room. It was like sitting on air.
"I didn't get much sleep last night. I was about to go to bed, so please keep it short."
She slowly began removing her dress as she spoke, presumably to change into her sleepwear. Ray nearly rose to her feet, but perhaps thinking twice about finding issue with her mistress's actions, ultimately said nothing. Seriously, this was about what you'd expect from a woman of pedigree. The gaze of a mere plebeian meant nothing to her. What nonsense. "Iria, why won't you call the police?" My question brought her to a halt.
"I believe I've already explained that. If we call the police now, they'll treat Sonoyama like a criminal."
But isn't that what we've been doing already? We've already locked her up. Aren't we committing crimes here?
Sheltering a criminal, imprisonment, and disposing of a corpse.
She continued, changing.
What's wrong with that? Murder, theft, those are crimes. And Sonoyama isn't being imprisoned, really. She gave consent. Besides, aren't you the one who suggested it in the first place?
Indeed I was. There was nothing I could say to that. Iria continued.
The people gathered here are the VIPs of the world. I refuse to allow them to become victims of the boorish authority of the state. Why call for excess meddling? Nobody wants that. Plus,
she smiled,
no matter who did it, I don't intend on subjecting anyone here to the law, even if it means exercising the full power of the Akagami Foundation. I'll be protecting them.
Why?
Because geniuses are above the law.
Of that, she sounded totally certain. It left nowhere for me to stand. If Shinya or I were the criminal, on the contrary, it sounded like she wouldn't protect us. What a feeling. What a crappy, crappy feeling.
How do you define the word genius?
Iria suddenly asked me. After a moment's thought, I answered. Well, doesn't Kretschmer ascribe it to people who are able to arouse permanently, and in the highest degree, a positive, grounded feeling of worth and value in a wide group of human beings?
I asked for your opinion.
Seriously, what a crappy feeling. But really, she was right. After another moment's thought, I answered once again. Someone who's far away.
Yes.
Iria said.
That answer is spot on.
I get the feeling there's some other reason you won't call the police.
What's that supposed to mean?
I'm just saying. It doesn't mean anything.
Well then, are we done here? I want to go to bed.
What a waste of time. It was like we were having a debate with a foregone conclusion. Sorry I bothered you, I said, and rose from the sofa. Ray stood up with me.
I'll see you out. You don't have to do that, Ray.
Iria commanded.
It's okay. It's my job. Please excuse me, miss.
Ray and I left the room together. It felt rather like I'd been given the brush off. But, well, I had expected as much for now. It would take more than a modest effort to convince someone like Iria.
Please don't mind her views,
Ray said, in a subdued tone on the way out.
Being considerate isn't her forte.
Okay. Come to think of it, this was the first time I had spoken with Ray like this. I don't really mind anyway.
She's really so fond of Aikawa, you see. That's why she doesn't want to call the police.
Aikawa? Oh, this person coming in 6 days?
For her, this is sort of a welcoming present. You see, Aikawa has a knack for these cases. And, well, it's no coincidence that my mistress uses the term detective.
Interesting. So this whole murder fiasco was some sort of present for Aikawa. If that was the truth, he had to be one hell of a guy. No. To put it plainly, maybe this whole incident was just Iria's way of killing time. Island exiled heiress to the Akagami Foundation. She certainly had no lack of money or time, and she had already gathered up all these geniuses here for her amusement. Could it be that this murder was just some special event? I shook my head. I was overthinking it. There aren't actually people like that. People like that couldn't exist in the world.
Well, please excuse me now.
Ray bowed to me in front of Kunagisa's room and went back the way she'd come. After talking, she had turned out to be an unexpectedly nice person, so I was a bit surprised. Hikari had made her out to be so strict. Thinking about that made me feel a little funny as I opened the door. Inside were Kunagisa, face to face with her computer rack, and one more person. Ah, the peerless fortune teller. Why the hell? Maki was smoking, but once I entered, she put out the cigarette with her own index finger. She rose from the sofa and approached to pass me without a word. But as if changing her mind midway, she butted her head into my chest, pushed me out into the hallway with her, and shut the door behind her. I eyed her suspiciously. She laughed childishly, but that's all she did, without even attempting to speak. In a better mood now.
It's not just my mood that's improved. You're so careless. Or maybe just rash.
What brought this on?
Do you have a favorite author?
This conversation was all over the place. No.
How about celebrity?
No.
You're so boring. Fine. Let's say there's somebody who admires a genius. But there are 3 patterns to that. There are those who think, I love this person, I admire him, I respect him, I want to be just like him. Pure, right? The second type is similar to the first, but they separate themselves completely from the object of their admiration, and even hold that person's life above their own. Finally, the third type thinks that by taking an interest in this wonderful person, they can absorb some of that wonderfulness and increase their own worth in turn. A despicable, rotten-minded breed that hangs on others. Now, which one of those three categories do you belong to?
The second, I suppose.
Correct! And warped as it may be, even I can't help but be moved by your loyalty to Kunigisa.
Maki conceded with a grin.
But with that said, aren't you being awfully careless, leaving her all alone in her room like that? What if I was the killer? If you really truly want to take care of something, you shouldn't let it leave your sight, even for a second. Keep that in mind, boy.
She smacked me twice on the shoulder and disappeared, singing some tune. I was left alone in the hallway. Damn it. I cursed to myself, opened the door, and entered. Part 2. With the usual rules apparently still in effect, come dinner time, almost everyone was gathered around the table. Almost. Naturally, Kanami wasn't around, and Akane was absent as well. Additionally missing were Akari and Teriko. Apparently, they had crossed to the mainland. The reason for this was that they needed to contact our dear detective, Aikawa. Couldn't you just call or email him? I asked.
We can't.
Hikari said.
Aikawa is famously difficult to reach. It's a busy life, I guess, and I believe there's something going on in Aichi Prefecture right now. So Akari and Teriko won't be back until tomorrow.
Busy life, huh? What is this person anyway, profession-wise?
A contractor.
What the heck? I wasn't entirely familiar with that kind of lingo. This night's dinner was Chinese food. According to Yayoi Sashirono, master of flavors, Chinese was the quickest and easiest food to make. Of course, that was from her perspective, so it probably wouldn't serve as a reference for me in my own cooking anytime soon.
By the way, Kunigisa,
Iria said, just as dinner was ending.
I hear you were conducting some covert ops this afternoon. Did you figure anything out? I thought your specialty was machines, but you can conduct these types of investigations as well? I do all sorts of stuff,
Kunigisa said, with sweet and sour pork crammed into her mouth.
I need to tie myself down with specialties and such.
That sounded familiar. Ah, right. They were Kanami's words. The words of a style-free painter. Regardless of your strengths and weaknesses, likes and dislikes, there's no need to specialize. This was a fundamental teaching at the ER program as well. Yet, in a world that categorizes everything, that was not easy teaching to adhere to. It began and ended with the likes of Tomo Kunigisa, Kanami Ibuki, and Akane Soniyama. For me, it was an impossibility.
So, did you figure anything out? About how the culprit entered the room, or who it may have been?
It sounded more like she didn't want Kunigisa to figure anything out. I recalled what Ray had said earlier. If the case were solved before Aikawa got here, it would be something of a killjoy for Iria.
I know it all. I know so much, I don't know which to choose.
Nobody seemed to understand what Kunagisa was talking about. Instead, they eyed her skeptically and said nothing.
Himina.
Iria switched the conversation from the techie to the psychic.
Since coming here, you've put all your effort into harassing the other guests, and have yet to do any fortune-telling. So how about it? Don't you think it's time to tell us what's going to happen next? It'll cost you.
Maki was living here for free and receiving a stipend, and she still had the nerve to demand a fee? What a money-grubbing atrocity of a human being. I had never met a person like her before. She was like the devil.
You're one to talk.
She was glaring at me. I wasn't talking, damn it.
Well, it sounds the same to me.
She pointed out.
And I use my abilities to make a profit. I'm not so young that I can stay motivated by morality and humanity alone, especially in terms of emotional age.
I understand what she was saying, but she must have already had enough 10,000 yen bills to fill 10 Tokyo domes. So what more did she want? It wouldn't hurt for her to tell fortunes for free every once in a while.
Who gave you the right to think that?
She spat and snapped her attention back to Iria.
Of course I'll pay for it.
Iria put her hands together.
Please, I'm asking you. It ends soon.
Maki spoke without even changing her tone of voice. Everybody waited for her to continue, but she was already fully invested in her twice-cooked pork. It looked like that was all she had to say.
Is that all?
Iria asked, evidently somewhat surprised.
I have to say, that was a little, that was charity. Since a certain somebody here has so many complaints about me, I thought I'd be a little generous. Don't worry about it. It has no bearing on the main storyline, so to speak.
Maki Himina. Just what is it like to know everything and stay silent about it? For someone like me who knows nothing, it was impossible to even imagine. In that sense, Maki was, for me, the biggest mystery on this whole island. So much so that the mystery of a decapitated corpse and a room locked by a river of paint was all blotted out. After that, Maki said nothing more, and so the fourth night's dinner ended without any significant developments. She and Kunagisa made a few bizarre comments as usual, but that was it. And yet, there was one thing that bothered me. Shinya and Yayoi hadn't said a single word the entire time, and they didn't even appear to be listening to anyone else's conversation. They just sat there putting food in their mouths, just because it was there. It wasn't so remarkable, but there was definitely something unnatural about the two of them. It was one thing for Shinya, who had lost Kanmi, to be like that. But what was Yayoi's issue? Granted, she had complained of feeling under the weather earlier,